All right, so I just wanted to share some of my progress in making build tools using kind of combining Bazel and Unreal Engine. I wanted to share what I'm doing and kind of my progress. I'd say that this is definitely not ready yet, and doesn't really it's not fully working, but I'm getting pretty close, I think, to having something that works. And once I kind of crack it, I'll do a proper tutorial, and it's going to be implemented in my at my studio. And I'm also thinking about, I've actually already open sourced the tools, even though they don't work. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to get some more Unreal developers working on it at some point. So just to go over what I'm trying to accomplish right now is I have this Unreal project here called it's called Project On, this one. So kind of to start with, I have this custom rule from the Unreal rules package or set of rules. And I'm loading in a function called compile blueprint. And the compile blueprint just takes a name. I feed it the executable, the Unreal Editor executable. So you can see that this is being referenced as a package. I feed it a project file. That's my project file here, and then I feed it a blueprint, a reference to or a path to a blueprint here. So the intended behavior here is that if I just go in and I do bazel.build and semicolon compile, it's going to be compile this blueprint here. So when I run this, it's going to check for my it's going to check if it has all of the packages that it needs. Does it have Unreal Engine? Does it have the project Dawn game file here, the U project file? Like, it's checking if it has access to it. I actually had to spend some time figuring out how I can kind of export files out of packages. So I'm doing this pretty inefficiently right now. You can see this is taking a while, and this is because I can just let this start up before I show that. So it is starting the Unreal Editor here. You can see that it's loading my project, and once it's finished, so the intended behavior here is that we take this log hauler blueprint and we compile it. So I'm just not going to touch anything. I'm not running this headless just yet. So you can see that it ran a test. This is the command line here. It ran a test, compiled the log hauler, outputted a text file, which is the result of the compile. Took 47 seconds, which is pretty pretty decent for just compiling a single blueprint. But this will be optimized at some point. So this is basically my goal. So if I run this again, the idea here is that because none of the inputs have changed, I mean the Unreal Editor is the same, the U project file hasn't really changed here, and the log hauler asset here, the blueprint, hasn't changed. So you can see that I ran this again. This only takes 9 seconds this time, and it just doesn't run it again because none of the inputs have changed. So there's no need to think that the outputs have changed. So taking a little bit of a look on how I'm doing this, one of the things that I have here is that I have this rules Unreal package, and I have this root workspace here. So in my project on Unreal project, I have a workspace file. So the way that I've kind of started to like to work is that I give my workspace a name. Like, this is really important. This is really important because otherwise, when I go into my actual rules, this is good so that I can have kind of the paths and the files kind of correct, files correct in the project. When I'm referencing them, I'll show this a little bit later. But the interesting thing here that I like to do is that the Unreal rules, like I mentioned, are just up on GitHub. But when I'm working, I like to have the rules in a separate repo. But when I'm working, I really like to have them just locally. So I'll have a local repository here, and I name them the same thing, so rules Unreal, and I just have a hard-coded path here while I'm working. So once I finish, like, this means that I can just change the files in this folder here in the Unreal rules, and I just run, and I don't have to worry about them being downloaded from GitHub. So just being able to do this, this allows me to do this really fast. Then the Unreal Engine installation, I don't have that anywhere yet because I've been trying to get Unreal to compile but that's a pretty complicated thing to do, just because of the way that the Unreal Engine is set up. So basically what I do, I just have a new local repository, and it's new because this is not a kind of a Bazel package, which means that I have to provide it at least with a build file. So the build file itself comes from the Unreal Rules kind of package. So under UE5 engine, and then here is the build file, and then there's a hard-coded path here. So basically this is how I'm setting up my workspace. So everything is while I'm developing this, everything is local. So then at the bottom here, I just have some Python rules that I'm using for other things. So this makes it really easy for me to work. I can work really fast like this. So taking a look into, just because we were talking about the Unreal Engine package here, if I go into the Bazel Unreal Rules here, I have this set up as a workspace in Visual Studio Code. So you can see it's this package here, and then UE5 and engine, and the semicolon means that there's a package here, UE5 engine, and this is a package because there's a build file here. So you can see that there is a UE5 engine build file here, and all that does is I mark the whole package public, and I export all of the files out of it. And this is the reason why this is so slow. So I don't I'm just doing this while I'm debugging and trying to understand this, and I saw a really good video, someone from Google talking about how this is terrible practice, just marking the whole package as public. But while I'm focusing on something else, and that something else doesn't really work yet, so I'm just trying to minimize the I'm just trying to have this as kind of explicit as possible. So basically this means that the Unreal Engine package exposes all files that it has, which are probably 150,000 files. So taking a look into the workspace again, so this kind of concludes the how I'm working with my local workspace. But if we want to take a look at the rules themselves and what's actually happening, and we go in here, take a look at we load this from the Unreal Engine packages, the rules Unreal package called compile blueprint. So compile blueprints is a function that I've created, a custom function. So I'm just going to go into here. This is under the Unreal Rules kind of repo. So here we can see the rule, and this is where I've spent most of my time for the past few weeks trying to figure this out. So here at the definition of the rule is called compile blueprints, and it references an implementation called compile blueprints impl. It has a couple of attributes. It has the engine executable, which just takes in a single file. The file is executable, and I don't really know what this is, but this is supposed to be there. It takes in a project file, and the project file is also just a single file, and it takes in a blueprint asset, and the blueprint is a single file, and let's just not have this. The default one is not supposed to be here. Well, let's not change this while I'm demoing. So these are the inputs that are defined for this function. So then we go and take a look at the actual implementation of the function. I define an output file just called output log file, and you can see when I ran this here, it is making an output log file .txt. So the way that I had to do this, because I'm still learning, is I created a new file called runme. So we can skip over this one for now. So in the runme file here, I write into this file. So this is the file itself. The content of the file is the Unreal plus project path, and the way this is done is that I have a relative reference to the Unreal Engine kind of executable, but then I ran into some really difficult problems, which are just because I am not good enough with this or familiar enough with this yet. Is that basically what I want to do is I just want to do Unreal Engine, the Unreal executable path plus the project file path, and that should just start the project. But there was no I couldn't get the relative paths working. So what I ended up doing, which I'm pretty sure is not great practice, is I take the executable path here, Unreal Engine executable path. That's fine. We can actually see the path that is being created here. So let's just take the first part of this here and paste this in here so we can see. So first part of this is the external Unreal Engine binary. So this is what's being exposed. Yeah, this is coming from the Unreal package, so this is fine. But I like putting this batch variable into the batch file actually creates an absolute path. So you can see that it's C users, Bazel, Gisle, stuff, and then it's an absolute path to the project. And this was the only way that I could get this to work, and I have no idea why. And I'm really hoping that the moment that if I can get some traction on this for when I put this open source and when it's actually starting to do something valuable, I can get some people to take a look at why this is happening and make sure that we can just skip this and have a relative path to the files themselves. So then we basically just create an action. We write into the file. So the action is writing into the file. Output goes into the run file that we defined here. The content of the file is going to be engine, like this variable here. I define an absolute log path. And here I'm using the current directory again, and I am giving it the path to the output log file. And then I just have some Unreal Engine command line interfaces, kind of command line arguments. So what I'm doing is I'm running an editor test, and then this is horribly documented, but the way this works is that I'm executing a command in Unreal Engine. I'm setting the automation kind of filter to the stress kind of subsection or stress filter of the tests. I'm listing out all of the tests that are inside of this filter, and then I'm running a single test here, which is inside of this. It's a test within the group project blueprints, compile blueprints dot, and then I give it the blueprint name. And the blueprint name here is the thing that we looked at before. It's just the name of the blueprint that we pass in, because Unreal does this by, like, it doesn't use the hierarchy. Maybe it can, but at least I got this set up without using it. And then this is just some kind of string comprehension, getting rid of the extension and getting the base name, for example. So we end up with something like this. If I just paste this in here, you can see execute command, all of this stuff. You can see that it's adding the log hauler asset name in here. So, and then there's just a couple of more arguments, and then I define the test exit flag. Is I'm pretty sure the way this works is that the moment that this message goes into the log, we get this is where the editor exits. So we write this into a file, we mark it as an executable, and then we basically just run it. We do actions run, and run it, and then we return the actual output file. So when we run it, we can take a look at the inside of the output files here. We're getting a log file here. So when I run this, you can see that this is just a full log of the test that we just ran. And the idea here is that I want to compile every single blueprint in the project, and so anytime then if I write a tool to parse this and add this to a UI or something like that, it's going to be cool. But the problem that I'm facing right now, and I'm still kind of working on, is that what I would assume is if I open up Unreal Engine now. So let's just run this again. I was messing with the rules, so there's a chance that it's going to run correctly now. So let's just run this again. No, okay. So I didn't mess with the rules. So you can see here that because the inputs into these functions are the same, Bazel just thinks, okay, cool. We don't have to run this again, and this is awesome. But what I want to do is, if we go into let's just open this up here. I'm gonna open up the project. Let's see. Here we go. should be starting. Yeah, so I'm opening up the project here, and I'm gonna find this this asset, this log hauler asset. So basically, I'm going to be making a modification to it, and what I want, the intended behavior is that I want this to, I want it to detect that the file has changed. So here's the asset itself. So let's just jump into this, add a print statement into it. Here we go, and here we go. So save the log hauler here. So I've saved the asset, and I'm going to close it down and not worry about this. So if I do git log, not git log, git status, we can see that the asset has been modified. So the thing that I would expect to happen now is that when I run the compile log hauler, Bazel is going to figure out that there is a change in the file, like the file is not the same. So it should run the compile test again. But when I run it, now it's iterating through all of the files in Unreal. Yeah, so now that I run it, you can see that the target is up to date, the output file is here, and yeah, so it's not triggering it. So this is the thing that I'm going to be focusing on next. I'm going to try to figure out how to make Bazel re-trigger when one of the inputs has changed. So yeah, this is where I'm at with the Bazel and Unreal, on my Bazel to Unreal journey. Really enjoying making this video. So if you're interested, leave a comment and or subscribe to the channel. Like, it's really motivating for me. And if you want to talk about game development or Bazel, or using Bazel in game development in particularly, definitely just send me a message. But yeah, this is really fun.